One of the longest winning streaks of the NHL season ends at 8. Unfortunately, it comes at the hands of the rival Panthers, but I don't think it disrupts Andrei Vasilevskiy's Vezina candidacy. We'll talk all about that and more as the Bolts try to get their streak back on track tonight on this episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Sperber, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Lightning and making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And the first thing we're going to dive into is the game on Monday night. Lightning went to Sunrise. Each goalie stopped over 27, but just one save made more by Sergei Bobrovsky. And he wins the Russian goalie battle as it's a 2-1 win for the Panthers over the Lightning. Alexander Barkov with both of Florida's goals coming in the second period. And the Lightning have been a late blooming team all season, and they just didn't get a puck in the net until that third period. And I think it was just a lot of it was really just Bobrovsky having one of his better games of the season and getting a clutch win for the Panthers. I mean, everyone wants to win a rivalry game, and especially when you look at the standings, this was really a must-win for both teams. And the Panthers put themselves back in a tie for first place with the victory. And I don't think that this is a game that completely takes the Lightning out of the race for the division. Because you look at the standings right now, the Lightning have 2 games in hand on the Panthers, 1 on the Maple Leafs, and they are 5 points behind both teams. Getting to second, maybe even first, is still realistic for the Lightning, but losses like this make it tougher. Because you frankly have to beat the team that the teams you're trying to pass. And the Lightning don't play the Panthers again until April. And they have the Maple Leafs to worry about as well, who they play again at home on Wednesday, April the 9th. So really, it's the last 5 games of April that, in a lot of ways, can make or break the Lightning season. I mean, you look at the month of April, and you have the Sabres, the Red Wings, Maple Leafs, Sabres again, and the Panthers. Most of the games against April are against Atlantic Division teams. And the Lightning do have chances again in that final month of the season. But by that point, by April 9th, when they play the Maple Leafs again, the division could be decided by then. So this was, I think, really the last chance the Lightning had to make headway on the other teams in their division. I mean, again, there's a possibility in April that the division is still open. The Lightning are hanging around and certainly making it complicated for either the Panthers or the Maple Leafs to really close down on that first place spot, because the Lightning have just been there. And, you know, they need to keep winning games, but this was a big chance that they had to vault ahead in the division. And I don't want to say they blew it, because Florida played a great game. Seth Jones, the new trade piece Florida acquired from the Blackhawks for Spencer Knight, that certainly seems to be a good move for the Panthers. But I think the real kicker with this one was, once again, the power play. And I'm sure I sound like a broken record talking about the power play as such a key factor in just about every Lightning game, but where they have the two power play goal leaders in the entire NHL are on the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's Jake Gensel and Braden Point with 13 power play goals apiece. with two strong goal scorers, let alone on the power play goal scorers like that, you would just expect more from the Lightning power play just about every night. They're the fourth-ranked power play in the league. At least they were heading into this game. They now dropped one more point after going 0 for 7 in the power plays against the Panthers. Meanwhile, Florida got what ended up being the deciding goal. Barkov's second was on a power play rebound. They were 1 for 3 on the power play. And that, I mean, you could look at a lot of the other statistical metrics. You could look at some of the stats. You could look at the fact that Florida outshot Tampa by a combined 3 goals or 3 shots on net in the last 2 periods. And the biggest shooting differential, 11-7 in the second period. 2 of those 11 shots went in for Florida. But I still think the power play has to be the biggest difference in this game, because the Lightning are a team that prides itself on the power play. They're a team that has used power play goals to win many a game over the course of this season. And the Panthers shut that power play down. They do have one of the toughest penalty kills in the league, and they just know how to turn up that PK against the Lightning. I mean, it just reminds you of the playoffs last year where you have Kucherov, cornered and not really able to move much with the puck and really to do anything with it. And he's the guy you want to trap on the Lightning power play. And the Panthers seem to do that better than anyone. This was definitely the worst power play of the season for the Lightning. They have never gone 0 for 7 on a power play. But I think that is really what did it. I mean, it's a 1-goal game, and 1 power play goal for the Lightning gives them a little extra road momentum, maybe gets it in overtime, and maybe they can steal one. But, I mean, it's just these are 2 teams that play each other, that just play each other hard. They're 2 teams that just flat out do not like each other. Only one can win. This time it was the Panthers. And now Florida has a chance to win the season series, as they have won 2 of 3. They're the only team that has won a home game in this rivalry series. And the Bolts will hope to win the home game in April when they face off again. But the Tampa Bay Lightning are now coming back home. They're going to play the Columbus Blue Jackets again, and looks like they need another win to kind of right the shit and get themselves back on the forefront of things in the playoff race. And Lightning had a couple of offensive milestones. Braden Point getting his 32nd goal of the season. Now it's 62 points on the year, and he has now scored in 7 of his last 8 games, scored a point, and he has a point in each of his last 2 games with a goal and an assist. 30 assists on the season for Jake Gensel, who has been on the score sheet in 4 of the last 6 games and has 10 points in his last 14 games with 3 goals and 7 assists. And this was the first regulation loss for Andrei Vasilevskiy since the end of January. And, it puts an end to the longest win streak of the season for the Lightning. But the streak is over, but the damage is still done. The Lightning are still comfortably in 3rd place after that streak, now 8 points ahead of the Detroit Red Wings, who sit at 4th. So, it hurts to have the streak end against your biggest rival, but it still put the Lightning in a more comfortable position, in a more desirable position in their division over the course of the streak. So obviously the team can be thankful for that, but just, a couple things didn't go their way, and a rare time that Vasilevskiy loses a goalie duel. And this time it is Bobrovsky, the Panthers, who come out on top. But the Bolts will have to supercharge that power play when they take on the Columbus Blue Jackets at home. We will preview that one in a little bit. But even with the loss tonight, Andrei Vasilevskiy is continuing a stellar season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has done everything that the Bolts could hope for. Save percentage of .920 and a goals allowed average of 218 over the course of the season for the Big Cat. It was a bit of a slow start, but now he has placed himself back firmly in the Vezina Trophy race, which is what we'll be talking about next on Locked On Lightning. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, pistachios are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I am snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are always a classic favorite. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Lightning. And let's talk goalies. Andrei Vasilevskiy has been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL for a long time. And he, at the beginning of the season, was my Vezina Trophy favorite, as he always is. Might be some bias there, but that's fine. Regardless, every year, Vasilevskiy, I think, has to be a candidate for the Vezina Trophy. He has proved time and time again that in the 10 years that Vazzy has been in the NHL, all with the Tampa Bay Lightning, he has proved to be one of the best goaltenders in the entire league. And this season is certainly no exception. No team in the NHL has faced more shots than Andrei Vasilevskiy, and he has almost 60 saves more than anyone else in the NHL. Furthermore, only Dustin Wolf and Peter Kochetkov have more assists than Vasilevskiy does this season. He has 2, which is tied for third with a number of other goalies. Goals allowed average, second in the NHL. Wins, tied for second in the NHL. 4 shutouts as well, tied for second in the NHL. By any metric, right now it's Connor Hellebuyck that's the best goalie in the season in the league. He leads the league in wins. He's one of the few starting goaltenders with less than 10 regulation losses, only with 40 and fewer than 10 regulation losses, as Logan Thompson of the Capitals is 26-4 in 34 starts, 35 games with Washington, but Hellebuyck 36-7, leading the league in save percentage and goals allowed average. And he is certainly the favorite for the Vezina, but especially due to the run that the Lightning just unfortunately ended, and even Vasilevskiy's strong performance in the loss, he has to be squarely in the mix for the Vezina Trophy. And I would honestly still say that Hellebuyck is the favorite for the Vezina Trophy. It really doesn't seem like, if you look at the stats and, frankly, the standings too, that there's much of a choice. The Winnipeg Jets have been one of, if not the best team in the NHL for the entirety of the season. They have been the Western Conference point leader for most, if not all, of this NHL season. And despite some recent run-ins with the Washington Capitals, the Jets have maintained a stranglehold on the NHL points lead for most of the year as well, with Washington now just 2 points back at game 61 for both clubs. The Jets, though, have had the majority of their success at home. They're 23-5-4. With a 19-10 record on the road. And again, records-wise, they're going to be better than the Lightning. The Jets as a team have just been that good, and I think that is part of the success of Connor Hellebuyck. But I think that Andrei Vasilevskiy's season with the Lightning might not be as statistically evident. It might not be as obviously statistically impressive as Hellebuck's season, considering if you look at most of the goalie stat categories, it's Hellebuck 1, Vasilevskiy 2. So right there, it seems that on the surface, Hellebuck is just the going away Vezina Trophy winner. And people who see those stats and vote in Hellebuck as the best goalie of the season, I'll understand. I'm a stats nerd myself. I'm not someone who is going to dispute some statistics, but looking at Vasilevskiy, looking at the teams around Hellebuck and Vasilevskiy, the Jets have been so consistently good all season, really not seeming to have too many brushes with the injury bug. Vasilevskiy has spent more time on ice still than any goalie in the NHL. And despite the fact that the Lightning might not be the second best team in the NHL behind the Winnipeg Jets, Vazzy's stats shows that it's not all about the success of the team that relates to the success of the goalie. Like, to be clear, I don't want to deny that Hellebuck is one of, if not the best goaltenders in the world right now. He had a great showing at the Four Nations face-off, and obviously being in net on a team that has been the favorite for the best record in the NHL the entire season is not going to hurt you. But Vasilevskiy has had to face more shots by a pretty wide margin than any other goalie in the NHL. Vazzy has faced over 13,000 shots. The next closest, Igor Shesterkin of the Rangers, 1,265, which is 70 shots fewer than Vasilevskiy. So, with those 70 more shots than anybody else, Vasilevskiy has made 62 more saves than anybody else, namely Connor Hellebuck, who is second in the league in saves made. All this done with over an hour more on the ice than anybody else in the NHL. And then you look at the team behind Vasilevskiy, a team that is very offensive-minded and has faced a lot of injuries, was missing their number one defenseman on the right side in J.J. Moser for about half the season, 2 months to be exact, that Moser was out. And it's not like that was the only injury the Lightning had. Facing injuries on defense, rotating in 3 or 4 players from the AHL. A lot of moving parts for the Lightning this season with a lot of injuries. Not all of them have been major. Moser has been the only one that has really lasted a long period of time. But the Lightning have had a lot of significant injuries this year, big or small, to key players. And, it's no excuses for Vasilevskiy. It doesn't matter who's in front of him on the ice. He is just going to get into the net and stop as many pucks as he can. And I think if he's not the absolute best goaltender this year, he certainly has been the best goalie in the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's a dispute there. And certainly deserves to be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. I think it's really going to be an uphill battle with the way Hellebuck and the Jets have been dominating the rest of the NHL over the course of this season. I would be pretty surprised if I saw anyone other than him win the Vezina Trophy this season. But I think Andrei Vasilevskiy has a darn good case. I mean, he is the goaltender on a team that defense is probably the biggest thing that they might need to fix. He is contributing more than most other goalies in the league on offense. I know I don't want to make goalie assists a huge stat, but he's still one of the leaders in them, and that's not the only one. I mean, Vazzy is second in just about every major stat category among starting goalies. And he has been having just a dominant season, playing more than any other goaltender, just seeing more time on ice than any other goaltender and doing more with it than I think anyone else in the league. Yeah, Hellebuck in about the same amount of games has 9 more wins, almost, and has led in 11 fewer goals. Not all of that is on Vasilevskiy, especially because if you look at a lot of the Lightning goals this season, I wouldn't give Vasi the blame on those. But Hellebuck does have the stats. He's on a team that is hard to admit, but it's better than the Lightning are this year. But I think Vasilevskiy absolutely deserves to be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. And I think just because he has really been the glue holding this Lightning team together over the course of the season, I really think that he deserves at least a look at the Vezina Trophy. And he definitely is going to give Connor Hellebuck a run for his money because Connor is the favorite, but Vasilevskiy certainly has a chance at another Vezina Trophy in 2025. And he'll need another solid game, maybe a Vezina level game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who come to town tonight. Second time the Lightning have faced Columbus at home this season. We will break down the Lightning's matchup to try and restart their streak as they return to Amalie Arena on Tuesday night. We will be back in Amalie Arena. It'll be interesting to see who the Lightning choose as their goaltender today, as they typically will switch between Vasilevskiy and Johansson on back-to-backs. Vasilevskiy was the starter in the first game of the back-to-back against Florida, which does open the door as a possibility for Johansson, who recovered from an injury over the Four Nations break, to play against Columbus. Meanwhile, the Blue Jackets have Elvis Merzlikins as their typical starting goalie, who has played more than any other Blue Jackets goaltender, namely Daniil Tarasov, over the course of the season. Fresh off a Stadium Series win for the Blue Jackets, they now embark on a 4-game road trip with 2 games in Florida before returning to the Northeast next week. And the Blue Jackets have been a surprise team. The unfortunate loss of Johnny Gaudreau, one of, if not their best player at the beginning of the season, really put them in a bind, and not much was expected of Columbus. Now they're in playoff position, 2 points ahead of the Rangers with the game in hand for 4th in the Metropolitan Division. Meanwhile, the Lightning, of course, 3rd place, 74 points, 2 games in hand against the Panthers and 5 points behind both Florida and Toronto for 1st in that division. This will be the 3rd and final time Columbus and Tampa go head-to-head this season, with Columbus winning Game 1 7-6 on the 21st of November. Almost a month later in Amalie Arena, the Lightning followed suit with a 5-3 win over the Blue Jackets, and now they do battle for the final time this season. And these are 2 teams that have been among the best offensive teams in the league. The offense has been behind the second half surge of the Columbus Blue Jackets that now has them in playoff position, 5th in the league in goals per game, while the Lightning are 2nd, one of 2 teams over 3.5 goals per game. But the Blue Jackets defensively have not been as strong. They allow 3.25 goals per game. That is 25th in the league, thanks to Vasilevskiy. The Lightning average 5th in that category. It's one of the teams the Lightning lead in faceoffs. They're 17th. And, of course, power play. The Lightning are better with 5th to 18th in power play percentage, 10th to 25th in penalty kill percentage. So the stats certainly favor the Lightning. And honestly, even if you look at the backup goalies, the matchup might favor the Lightning as well. I think the Blue Jackets are a strong offensive team that just doesn't have the same defensive strength that the Lightning do. So right out of the gate, I think we have a big advantage there for Tampa Bay, just having a more trustworthy man in the net. But the Blue Jackets do have some more mentals going their way as they got Boone Jenner back, their captain, and he has really sparked this Jackets offense. He has played the last 4 games for Columbus, and Columbus is on a 4-game win streak. Detroit twice, including the Stadium Series, Dallas, and Chicago. The last 4 victims of the Blue Jackets since Boone Jenner has been back. He has also recorded 7 assists. And with the way that he has been playing, this might be another time where Cooper adjusts the Lightning lines a little bit. What he has done in the past is Braden Point is usually the first line center. An example would be against the Edmonton Oilers, where he moved the lines around so that instead of Braden Point shadowing Connor McDavid, it was Anthony Cirelli's line on Connor McDavid's line. So the Lightning could use their best defensive center to lock down one of the best players in the NHL. Now, Boone Jenner might not be Connor McDavid, but he is certainly an offensive talent to watch, as he has really been the maestro of this Blue Jackets offense over the last 4 games that have helped them get back into playoff position and help them try and keep this redemption season alive as they play for their fallen comrade in Johnny Hockey. Of course, an emotional game at the Stadium Series with the Red Wings coming up, all clad in different Johnny Gaudreau jerseys from different stops along his professional career. His parents were involved in the pregame ceremony. I mean, very touching stuff. And, it's amazing to see how much the NHL community has reached out to the Gaudreau family over the course of the season and really kept them in their thoughts and kept them in the league. I mean, they've really done a great job of keeping the Gaudreau family in the hearts of all of hockey fans and making them an important part of this season after the tragedy in August. And I think having a couple extra days to just let that sit could be an advantage for the Lightning. The Blue Jackets have won their last 4 games. The Stadium Series showdown came this past weekend for the Blue Jackets. And they've had a couple days off since. So it's not like it's been a week off. It's only been, I think, 2 or 3 days off for Columbus. But I think just it stalls the momentum. It stalls just all the hype going into that game that has to just add so much more energy to these Blue Jackets players, in a game where most of it was spent honoring their fallen teammate. The Blue Jackets came out on top against a favored Red Wings team, even though it was Columbus at home at Ohio Stadium. But I think that gives the Lightning a little bit of an advantage, just not having the momentum directly coming from that Stadium Series game, and the Lightning coming off a back-to-back and a loss against their rival, wanting to just get back on the right foot instantly. And this is a rubber match between these two teams that, frankly, I mean, you look at that first game was when Columbus was towards the bottom of their division, and then the Lightning redeemed themselves, and now, frankly, I think they need to do it again. I don't think that the Lightning, I don't want to say can be taken seriously, because regardless of what happens in this game, I'm going to call them my dark horse for the playoffs. They're certainly a team that you're not going to want to face in the postseason, because if they get hot, you're in trouble. But losing a series to Columbus, a team that might be a playoff team now, but is still a team that on paper I'd expect the Lightning to beat 2 of 3 times in a season, I think that would be a bit of a setback. And obviously coming off of a tough loss like the one against the Panthers, I mean, so many chances to equalize for the Lightning that just didn't end up coming in because of a great game from Bobrovsky. You're playing against a team that doesn't have as strong a defense, that's a lot more offensively inclined, without that strong of a goalie combination. The Lightning certainly win that battle going away in terms of matchups, but anything can happen. Each team has won this game already this season. So it's really anyone's game right now, and it's just a matter of who is more locked in. And I think that really has to be the Lightning. I think the Lightning, following up a tough loss to a Panthers team that they needed to beat. I don't want to call this a must-win game, but you just want to see the Lightning get back on the good foot at home against Columbus. I think they do that, but it is certainly not going to be easy. This is going to be a good one at Amalie Arena tonight, and we'll leave it there. As I, Josh Sperber, thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. And now, for your second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NHL podcast. The Locked On NHL podcast brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter with local coverage that you love from Locked On. Just find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and do the same here. Clearly, you found us or you wouldn't be listening. So please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe on YouTube, any of our social media platforms, or anywhere else you listen to your podcast. We really appreciate your guys' support. So once again, I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for tuning in once again. And go Bolts. Have a great day.